Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that feels, well, it feels universal and honestly pretty overwhelming. Corruption.
It really is.
Yeah.
One of our sources for today calls it the world's silent emergency.
And that feels right. It's this universal toxin,
Yeah.
It poisons public trust, it strangles economies.
And it's everywhere from, the big Western capitals to emerging markets in the global South. And for so long, the way we've tried to fix it is it's all about laws and institutions.
Exactly. We throw these big, clumsy policy tools at a massive systemic problem.
And it's just not enough.
But today, we're diving into a completely different angle. The source material is this powerful trilogy by Melvyn C. Valenzuela.
Right. You've got Paalala and Lolo, The Art of Smart Tactics, and the Self-Rescue Playbook.
And taken together, they offer this radical, personalized blueprint.
It's a fascinating argument. It says the real defense against corruption isn't just about external policy. It's about, and this is a direct quote, the re-engineering of the individual soul.
The re-engineering of the soul. I love that. So that's the mission for this deep dive. We're going to map out a 3-phase process for building personal integrity from the ground up.
And it's all rooted in this really profound Filipino wisdom. It gives you these 3 universal archetypes, these roles that anyone can step into.
To become what the sources call an unbuyable, unshakable force.
Exactly. And those 3 are, first, Lolo, who is the moral anchor.
Okay.
Then there's the tactician, who is the strategic executor.
The brains of the operation.
And finally, the rescuer. That's the master of endurance. You need all 3 of them working together.
And to make this all concrete, to ground the theory, we're using a really compelling case study.
The real-life journey of Senator Robin Hood C. Padilla.
Right. We're going to track his public transformation from, let's be honest, a controversial figure to becoming a top-ranked, highly effective legislator. We're going to see how these 3 phases actually work under intense, real-world pressure. So let's start at the beginning, because the material is very clear on this. The first battle against corruption is always internal.
Always. This is part 1, the legacy of Lolo, the moral anchor.
It all begins in that single moment of moral choice.
And Lolo gives you the foundation for that choice. It's built on 2 non-negotiable standards. Dangal, which is honor.
Okay, Dangal.
And Pananagutan, which is this deep sense of responsibility and accountability. If you don't anchor yourself to those, the system will just sweep you away.
Let's dig into Dangal first, because the book calls it the ultimate financial firewall.
Yeah, it's all about rejecting what it calls the golden shortcut.
That one moment, that intoxicating offer of ill-gotten gain.
Right, and there's this quote from Lolo in the book that it nails it. He says, "The truest wealth you own is the silence of your conscience. Never trade that silence for the loudest noise of ill-gotten gain."
Wow. That reframes everything.
It defines wealth not by what's in your bank account, but by your internal peace.
So let's picture the persona here. The heir of Lolo. Maybe a government procurement officer.
And they get the offer, the literal suitcase of cash to sign off on a fraudulent contract.
That shortcut is everywhere, isn't it? In every industry.
Oh, absolutely. But the heir rejects it. And the sources say that in that moment, they avert an act of moral suicide.
It's not just about avoiding jail time.
No, it's about realizing that if you take that bribe, you're sentencing yourself to a lifetime of fear, of blackmail, of vulnerability.
You trade an external problem for an internal catastrophe.
Exactly. The person who embodies Lolo understands that their honor cannot be taxed, cannot be stolen, and cannot be revoked. It becomes this protected, infinite asset.
But I have to ask, for the average person saying no in that moment, that can be career suicide, or at least financially really, really painful.
It can be. And that's where the second principle, Pananagutan, comes in. It provides the motivation. It drives this idea of huwag kang magsang, don't waste.
So it's not just about not stealing. It's about not wasting.
Yes. It frames waste itself as a moral failure, because wasting public resources hurts people just as much as active theft.
That's a huge culture shift. If you let waste happen on your watch, you're morally complicit.
Which brings us to the next persona, the budget guardian.
Right. The bureaucrat who's looking at, say, inflated invoices, office supplies costing 10 times the market price.
It's seen as just the cost of doing business in a soft bureaucracy.
But the guardian doesn't see it that way. They see waste as a betrayal.
They apply Lolo's warning. You are not a king of the treasury, but a steward of the people's trust. So it's not just about rejecting a kickback, it's about actively challenging those inflated prices.
Demanding transparency, That small act is actually massive.
It is. It turns a routine corrupt practice into an act of ethical resistance.
And you can see this mirrored so perfectly in Senator Padilla's story.
Absolutely. His time in prison, that period of public reckoning, that's the personal crucible where this Dangal gets forged. He understands the cost of no accountability.
And look at how that shows up in his politics. He could have taken the easy path, pushed some popular, simple bills.
It's transactional route.
Instead, he champions massive, complex, structural reform, federalism.
Which is pretty much the hardest path you could choose in that political landscape. It disrupts centralized power. It requires this enormous amount of work.
It's the ultimate validation of Lolo's teaching. A meaningful legacy is built structurally, not through quick, easy transactions. It proves that accountability for him is a deeply lived lesson.
Okay, so you have the moral engine, you have Lolo.
But having the right heart, that's not enough, is it? Not on its own.
Not even close. You need a strategy. You need execution.
Yeah.
Because the system you're fighting is cunning.
Right. If you go in with just righteous emotion, you're going to lose.
Which brings us to part 2, the discipline of the tactician, the strategic executor.
And the core idea here is brutally honest. If you chase a quick win, you will find a fast collapse. True power is built brick by brick.
The tactician is the one who steps back from the anger and turns it into a methodical, winning plan.
They defeat chaos with discipline, with calm thinking in chaos.
And the key persona here is the master strategist, their main tool, something the book calls weaponized preparation.
Weaponized preparation. Tell me more.
Okay, so picture an anti-graft auditor. They're going after a really powerful political family. The pressure's on immediately.
Smear campaigns in the media, frivolous lawsuits.
Intimidation, all of it. The strategist doesn't engage with any of that noise.
They just ignore the drama.
Completely. They focus on one thing, irrefutability.
So they spend months, maybe years, just building the case.
Building an ironclad chain of evidence, meticulous documentation, securing digital records. And this is key, using complex legal tools like mutual legal assistance treaties to get proof from overseas.
They're building a file that's so watertight it can survive a decade of political attacks.
That's weaponized preparation, and it's the difference between a splashy headline and an actual conviction.
The strategist understands that the link between preparation and opportunity is absolute. The opportunity isn't revenge. It's having the case built before anyone else even knows a crime was committed.
Exactly. And then you have the other side of the tactician, the security expert.
This is more about prevention.
Right. Designing systems, not just relying on good people, that make theft impossible, or at least instantly traceable. It's all about defense in depth.
Okay, let's get practical. An IT consultant is overhauling a corrupt customs system at a huge port. Fraud is everywhere.
So the expert doesn't just install one thing, they build layers. First, mandatory digital vetting that automatically flags suspicious prices or shipments.
Makes sense.
Second, and this is brilliant, they implement rotation of approvers.
Why is that so effective?
Because kickback schemes rely on relationships, you have to know who to bribe.
Of course.
If the system is constantly rotating who signs off on things daily, weekly, it breaks that ability to form a corrupt partnership. You can't bribe a moving target.
That's so simple, but so smart. And the third layer.
Permanent auditable logs that an outside party can review. So you have prevention and you have total traceability.
So that's a quiet victory, but it saves millions.
And again, you see this exact strategic pivot in Senator Padilla's career.
He had every chance to lean into his celebrity, into drama, to fight on the enemy's terms.
But he didn't. He made a tactical pivot. He just ignored the drama and focused on mastering the substance.
Constitutional law, the maze of Senate rules, legislative procedure.
He built what the source calls a fortress of competence.
And that weaponized preparation completely neutralized his critics, because their main attack was his supposed lack of experience.
It's the perfect proof that, in the long run, superior discipline and strategy can beat superior wealth and influence. Every time.
Okay, so let's talk about the long game. Integrity isn't single choice or single strategy. It's a marathon.
It absolutely is. And this is part 3, the unshakable endurance, the fortitude of the rescuer.
This is where the system gets really nasty.
It deploys its final and most insidious weapon, psychological warfare. It's not trying to beat you anymore, it's trying to make you give up.
It wants to trap you in the toxic loop and just induce despair, burnout, surrender.
It's a war of attrition. And the rescuer is the one who has the psychological counterpunch.
The core wisdom here is so powerful. The past does not dictate the future. Only the failure to act does.
In other words, failure is just data.
So think about the resilient rescuer, the whistleblower.
They're facing everything, getting fired, libel suits, being ostracized by their peers, what the book calls the ghosting feeling. The emotional toll is just immense.
So how do you possibly survive that kind of mental onslaught?
You apply what's called the reframe. Specifically, they target what they fear.
That's a powerful cognitive shift.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The attacks stop being a measure of your vulnerability and they become proof of impact. The harder they come after you, the more you know you're being effective.
It turns victimization into a source of courage.
And the path to recovery isn't one big heroic act. It's about focusing on controllable metrics.
Your health, your family's safety, keeping your documents organized.
And realizing that resilience is small. It isn't about surviving one nuclear blast. It's about taking 9 small, consistent steps every single day to rebuild.
Then you have the other side of this, the more subtle attacks, the boundary enforcer.
Right. This isn't the suitcase of cash. This is the unsolicited gift, the friendly dinner invitation, the small favor.
All designed to create these tiny debts, these little points of leverage.
And this is so hard psychologically because we're taught to be agreeable, to be sociable. The enforcer has to build an impenetrable fortress of integrity.
So this is the regulator who proactively declines all private invitations from stakeholders.
And meticulously logs every single communication, no exceptions.
They're operating under that quote, the only debt you owe is to your purpose.
Saying no to dinner with a powerful person feels awkward, but the enforcer knows that the smallest crack is where the rot gets in. They use solid boundaries, and they always have the courage to hit the reset button after a setback.
Which brings us back to Senator Padilla one last time. His political comeback, his electoral victory.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate public demonstration of escaping that toxic loop.
He absolutely refused to let his past define his potential. He proved that, yes, it is always possible to hit the reset button.
He literally repurposed his past, turned what was a liability into a source of moral authority.
And forced people to judge him on his work now. And that unwavering long-term focus on something as difficult as constitutional reform that takes the exact psychological tenacity of the rescuer, just outlasting the burnout.
So when we put it all together, what does this comprehensive blueprint mean for you, for the individual who's facing these forces in their own life?
It gives you a 3-dimensional strategy. It's a plan for integrity that works anywhere.
First, you have to be moral. You embody Lolo, his Dangal and Pananagutan.
You reject the golden shortcut, and you commit fiercely to being a good steward.
Second, you have to be strategic. You have to be the tactician.
Use discipline, focus on what is irrefutable, and use that weaponized preparation to defeat chaos. Always play the long game.
And third, you have to be resilient. You need the fortitude of the rescuer.
Use the reframe. Turn pain into your proof of impact. Maintain solid boundaries. And always have the courage to reset your path after a failure.
The final message from these sources is just. It's incredibly empowering. It suggests that the most powerful force for good, the strongest defense against corruption, is the integrated individual.
The time for waiting for a hero or for some perfect new law is over. The challenge is clear. Go forth and build that legacy of integrity that can never be stolen.
Be the unbuyable, unshakable force that the future so desperately needs.